Christopher Columbus, acting as a mentor, had to urge his crew to take on the voyage to the New World, as belief at the time told the crew that they were crossing the horizon and sailing into the boundless ocean of the immortal being that surrounds the cosmos. Columbus urged his sailors like they were small children, because they feared the fabled leviathans and mermaids and other monsters of the deep. They were hesitant to go, fearful they would be devoured by the deep-sea threshold guardians blocking their voyage. This example from history ties in nicely to where we are at this point in the story. Our hero is ready to move forward on their adventure. The mentor has prepared them, helped the hero overcome their fear and doubt. All looks good until the hero comes to the threshold, and blocking their way is a guardian, one that guards the entrance to the unknown world. These guardians are metaphors for the obstacles that we face in our lives. Any obstacle that we face can be thought of as a threshold guardian, something that has been put in place to temporarily block us. Guardians are not supposed to keep us blocked forever. Eventually, we are expected to prove ourselves worthy and show our power, because when these threshold guardians test us, we should show that we are worthy of leaving our known world and moving into the unknown world. Threshold guardians test your worthiness because if you're not worthy to make the journey, then the guardians are there to block you for your own safety. This is a metaphor for your parents, whose job it is to keep you safe until you're ready to take on certain challenges. Your parents are there to guard you, and when you prove yourselves worthy, like when you make the grade or you show that you're responsible for your learning, then they stand aside and let you move forward. But if you do not prove yourself worthy and do not show that you are responsible in some way, then the benefits of freedom, those trips into the unknown world, advancement in your journey, is blocked until you have shown your parents that you are ready to move forward without their constant supervision. We see examples of this metaphor played out in many myths and stories. A famous example from mythology is an obstacle called the Simple Glades, or the Clashing Rocks. These huge rock cliffs would crash together and crush anything that tried to travel between them. Well, as Jason and his Argos were trying to escape with the Golden Fleece, they knew that they had to sail between the clashing rocks. So, one of Jason's Argos, Phineas, told Jason to release a dove when they approached the islands, and if the dove made it through, they needed to row with all their might. But if the dove was crushed, then they would be doomed to fail. Jason let the dove go. The dove sailed through the cliffs and made it through, only losing a few tail feathers. Seeing this, the Argos rowed strongly and made it through with just minor damage to the extreme stern of the ship. And from that time on, the clashing rocks were forever joined, leaving free the ability to pass through them forever. So we've talked about the Threshold Guardian's metaphorical meaning. Let's look a little bit more closely at how these Threshold Guardians appear in stories and myths and movies. We're going to focus first on external Threshold Guardians, as these are the limitations that come from outside of us, events that happen to us. So all of these Threshold Guardians are things that block us from the outside. The first that we're going to discuss is oppression. People keeping us down, oppressing us, keeping us from doing what we want to do or we feel is right. That is being oppressed or oppression. The second one, hostile people. People acting in a hostile way towards us, either through words or actions. Acting in a very confrontational manner, trying to keep us from doing what we need to do or to get the work done that we feel we need to get done. The third one is prejudice. People blocking us because of the way we look or what we believe in or what we do.
They call me a mudblood.
He did not.
What's a mudblood?
It means dirty blood. Mudblood's a really foul name for someone who is muggle-born, someone with non-magic parents, someone like me. It's not a term one usually hears in civilized conversation.
People can be prejudiced against us because of our age. Sometimes you might feel like, because you're 11 or 12, people look down upon you, or seeing that you're only a child, that there's no way you could have anything to offer. That would be a form of prejudice. So whether you're a boy or a girl, or people can choose to look down on you based on your religion or the color of your skin, there are all forms of prejudice. All of these forces try to block someone based on a certain feature, and that would be considered prejudice.
Think on it for 1 minute.
Bad weather or other natural phenomena can pop up in stories and myths and even in our lives and block the hero and the story from getting to what they need or continuing their journey. The last external threshold guardian is what some people say is bad luck. Sometimes you just, at the end of the day, you just say, well, it wasn't my lucky day. If something happened outside of me and there's nothing I can do about it, maybe I just have bad luck. So all those threshold guardians are external, and they happen outside of us. Internal threshold guardians are things that we do to ourselves. Now, in a way, I think these are even more damaging or worse than the external guardians.
An act on instinct.
With the blast shield down, I can't even see.
Because we can try and overcome what other people do to us, but it's a lot harder to overcome the things that we do to ourselves. Especially when we say things like, I can't. I can't is probably the most damaging internal threshold guardian because it blocks you from taking any chances and doing things that you think you can do. So I can't is a very dangerous internal threshold guardian, and it's probably the worst thing that we can say or do to ourselves. The next one is fear. Fear is an internal threshold guardian because it keeps us from doing things that we can do because we are afraid. And sometimes what we're afraid of is something that doesn't even exist. It is a fear of our imagination. And that ties back into the refusal of the call from earlier in the hero's journey, an emotion blocking us from moving forward.
What? I eat when I'm upset, okay?
Oh, no need to explain.
Dependencies are internal threshold guardians because it means we become dependent on something else. So it could be Po in Kung Fu Panda, who's depending on food, or any type of dependency where we want something outside of us to make us happy or make us feel a certain way. Then we depend on it, and we don't depend on ourselves to get through the tough times. One thing we have to remember is internal and external threshold guardians are not permanent blockages. They're merely temporary. And it seems like whenever we try to make a change in our lives or try to do something different, for whatever reason, a threshold guardian pops up to test us. Not to stop us, but to test us, to see if we have the resolve to follow through and really make the changes that we say we want to make. So we know what the threshold guardians are. How do we deal with them? What do we do? Here we are standing, facing the threshold guardian. How do we get past it? So here are some options. First one, turn around and run away. That's right. You can just quit. It may not be the best strategy because that means the hero is not ready to take on the journey and that they are overwhelmed, but it is an option. Just run away from your problems. Now, if you do that, the problem doesn't go away. All that happens is it shows that you're not ready to face it or deal with it. Now, the second option is you can always attack your threshold guardian head on. Go ahead, take on the challenge. Head first and be strong. Just say, I'm going to do this, and nothing's going to stop me, and no matter what you say, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Sometimes that works. Sometimes, though, you find that the threshold guardian is a little bit stronger than you and pushes you right back. The third way of dealing with a threshold guardian is to be crafty or deceitful. And that means you come up with a way to use your brain to trick the guardian. You make some kind of plan or idea. Maybe in class you tell your teacher that you have to use the restroom when really all you want to do is get up and take a break. The fourth way of dealing with the threshold guardian is bribery or appeasement. Bringing the threshold guardian something they need or desire. Maybe your teacher wants you to finish your work, and so you bake some cookies and bring those to school so that you can play on your phone in class instead of doing your work. Please remember that I prefer chocolate chip cookies. The last way to overcome the threshold guardian is to turn them into one of your allies. Oftentimes in stories and movies and myths, the hero confronts the special guardian and overcomes the threshold guardian. And what happens is two forces combine together into one. So the power of the hero and the threshold guardian crash together and become an ally. And then they start to work together to overcome the shadow character or the shadow archetype later in the story. Confronting the threshold guardian has its rewards because it means that you are ready to continue the journey. The hero of the story has proven themselves worthy and willing to change, willing to accept the challenge, so they earn some new powers, and this is really an interesting part because these new powers oftentimes are needed to overcome the shadow archetype that's in the abyss waiting for the hero. So, what does the hero gain from overcoming the threshold guardian? They become stronger. Maybe not physically stronger, but stronger with their self-confidence. They realize that they can overcome these challenges, that the struggle really isn't that hard. The hero says, look what I've done. And with this new confidence, they realize that they can move forward in the journey. And maybe they do have the tools that they need to overcome the obstacles that are confronting them.